Elias Ward was not the kind of person people remembered easily. He worked as a mechanic on the small frontier station of Kiros 7, a remote outpost at the edge of human-controlled space. Most days, he spent hours repairing mining drones, engines, and communication arrays, the same machines over and over again. The work was honest and necessary, but it never brought him recognition. Some of his colleagues joked that he would grow old fixing broken engines and never do anything important. Elias didn't mind. He liked machines. They made sense. They obeyed rules. Unlike people, machines rarely disappointed you. The day the Guardian arrived, however, nothing in Elias's life would make sense again. The Guardian was discovered drifting near the outer rim, a massive hulking machine of unknown origin, partially damaged and silent. Ships had scanned it for weeks, trying to determine whether it was a weapon, a relic, or some alien colony's defense system gone rogue. The reports were confusing and conflicting, and most engineers refused to go near it. "It's too dangerous," they said. "No human can handle it." But something about its silent presence called to Elias. He could not explain why, but he felt a pull toward the massive, immobile figure lying in the void. He suited up and boarded the small transport that would take him to the Guardian's derelict hull. As the engines hummed, Elias couldn't help but feel nervous. He had worked with machines before, yes, but nothing like this. The Guardian was enormous, taller than any human building, its body armored with strange alloys that reflected the dim light of distant stars. There were scars across its hull, jagged marks of what looked like combat or sabotage. And yet, it radiated something Elias couldn't define, a presence, a quiet, watchful awareness that seemed to reach out to him even in its silence. The transport docked with the Guardian's hull, and Elias floated inside using his magnetic boots. The interior was dark, filled with alien machinery that glowed faintly, and cables ran along the walls like veins. He could see the central core ahead, a massive chamber of lights and energy conduits that pulsed faintly, as though waiting for someone to awaken them. Elias stepped forward, tools in hand, and felt a thrill of excitement. This was no ordinary repair job. This was discovery. He began inspecting the damage, his hands moving with practiced precision. Panels were bent, circuits broken, wires burned. Some parts of the Guardian seemed almost organic, moving slightly as if alive. Elias paused, running his fingers along one of the alien conduits. He felt a faint pulse, a rhythm that seemed intentional. His eyes widened. Could the Guardian be alive? It had been classified as inactive, abandoned, but this subtle heartbeat suggested otherwise. Elias spent hours carefully tracing circuits, rerouting energy, and recalibrating damaged systems. He did not rush. Machines, he had learned, were unforgiving of impatience. One wrong move could end everything. As he worked, he muttered to himself, naming tools, describing steps, talking as if the machine could understand him. "Let's get you back in shape," he said quietly. "You deserve to work again. You deserve a chance." He didn't know why he spoke, but somehow it felt right. Something shifted then, subtle at first. A faint glow in the central core grew stronger, pulsing in rhythm with Elias's words. Panels that had been dead flickered to life. The Guardian's systems hummed faintly as though testing the repair work. Elias froze. He hadn't expected this. Machines sometimes sparked when repaired, but nothing like this. It was as if the Guardian was aware of his presence, observing him, waiting for him to prove himself. Elias's heart raced. He had repaired engines that ran fusion reactors, drones that navigated asteroid fields. But this was different. This was intelligence, ancient and vast, judging him with patience that human eyes could not comprehend. He took a deep breath and continued, adjusting the energy flow to the central core, aligning circuits with precision. The machine responded almost immediately, lights pulsing faster, energy flowing smoother. The Guardian was waking. Hours turned into a day, and Elias hardly noticed the time passing. He slept only in short bursts, using monitors to keep an eye on systems that had become almost alive to him. The station outside was unaware of his progress, focusing on mundane repairs and supply runs. But inside the Guardian, something monumental was happening. Energy flowed through conduits that had been dead for centuries. Systems calibrated themselves, and a strange warmth spread through the hull, like a heartbeat finally restored. Then came the moment Elias had both anticipated and feared. The central core pulsed brightly, flooding the chamber with light. Elias shielded his eyes, and when he looked again, he saw movement. The Guardian's limbs shifted, articulating smoothly, the metal creaking in ways that sounded almost like stretching muscles. A panel near his shoulder opened, revealing intricate machinery that shimmered with alien energy. And then, in a soundless moment, the Guardian's lights aligned with his gaze. He felt it looking at him, not through eyes, but through awareness. Elias staggered back, a mixture of fear and awe washing over him. He realized he was not alone. He had thought he was repairing a machine, but this was more than that. This was consciousness, ancient and powerful, and it had noticed him. He could feel it studying him, evaluating him, weighing his intentions. For a moment, he doubted himself. Did he deserve to be here? Was he strong enough, clever enough, worthy of this moment? Then the pulse of energy from the Guardian's core shifted, softer now, almost welcoming. Elias felt a strange calm. He approached carefully, hand outstretched. I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. "I just want to help." The Guardian responded, moving one limb toward him in a gesture that mirrored his own cautious approach. The metal was cool, but the pulse beneath it felt alive. Elias reached out, and when his hand touched the surface, a wave of energy ran through him. Not painful, but undeniable. It was as if the Guardian had recognized him, acknowledged him, and accepted him as its caretaker. Days passed, and Elias worked tirelessly to stabilize the Guardian. He mapped damaged systems, replaced broken conduits, and adapted alien technology to human understanding. Each success brought a response from the machine. Lights flickered in patterns that felt like communication. Panels shifted to allow easier access, and energy flowed more smoothly than before. It was learning from him even as he learned from it. A partnership forming in silence and subtle movements. The station outside began to notice unusual readings from the Guardian. Power surges, energy pulses, and faint signals reached the outskirts of Keros 7, causing curiosity and concern. Officials debated sending teams to investigate, but Elias knew it was too early. The Guardian was not yet fully active, and exposure to the outside world could trigger unpredictable reactions. He resolved to finish the repairs in isolation, trusting only himself to handle the immense power before him. One evening, as Elias rested against a control panel, he reflected on the journey so far. He had spent his life repairing machines that obeyed rules, that followed logic and mathematics. The Guardian was different. It was alive in a way humans could not fully comprehend, ancient and intelligent, capable of understanding intention and choice. Yet despite the fear he felt, Elias knew he had made the right decision. He had not come for glory or recognition. He had come because he believed that something broken deserved repair, and in doing so, he had awakened something that had waited for centuries to be touched by human hands. The final stage of the repairs took longer than he expected. Complex alien systems required him to improvise solutions, combining human engineering principles with observations of the Guardian's responses. At times he failed, causing sparks, minor energy surges, or temporary system shutdowns. Each failure was a lesson, each correction a step closer to completion. Elias worked without hesitation, trusting his instincts and the subtle guidance he felt from the Guardian itself. Then came the moment of true activation. Elias rerouted the last damaged circuit, aligned energy flow, and synchronized the core with auxiliary systems. The Guardian's lights flared, pulsing in rhythm with Elias's heartbeat. He stepped back as the massive machine lifted its limbs, moved with deliberate precision, and opened panels that had been sealed for centuries. And then, in a soundless but profound moment, the Guardian turned its awareness fully toward him. Elias felt a bond, stronger than anything he had experienced. This was not just a machine. This was a being, ancient and powerful, that had chosen him. He realized the truth, staggering under the weight of it. He was no longer merely a mechanic. He was a partner. The human the Guardian had acknowledged. And in that silent, glowing chamber, Elias understood something fundamental. Humans were underestimated by the galaxy, dismissed as fragile and insignificant. But here, in the void, a human had awakened a Guardian, had earned its trust, and had proven that ingenuity, courage, and care could bridge the gap between species and centuries. As he stood there, heart racing and hands trembling, he felt a surge of excitement and fear. The Guardian was awake. The galaxy would soon notice, and Elias Ward, the quiet mechanic of Kairos 7, was about to step into a story far larger than anything he had ever imagined. He looked at the Guardian, pulsing softly beside him, and whispered, "Let's see what we can do together." Elias could hardly believe what he was seeing. The Guardian, which had been nothing more than a silent, immobile machine when he first approached it, now hummed with life. Soft lights pulsed along its frame, revealing complex circuits and alien symbols that Elias had never encountered. Every movement it made was smooth, deliberate, and almost aware. Despite his training, he felt a shiver run down his spine. This was not just a machine. It was intelligence itself, ancient and powerful, awakening under his hands. He stepped back and wiped his greasy hands on his rag, staring at Orlan with a mixture of fear and awe. You can see me," he whispered, unsure if the machine even had ears. The soft blue glow from its core seemed to intensify as though acknowledging his presence. Elias had repaired machines before, many far more advanced than anything on human colonies, but this felt different. This felt personal. The Guardian was alive in a way that transcended any technical manual or blueprint he had ever read. He remembered the last few weeks, how he had crawled inside the Guardian's broken hull, mapping wires, rerouting damaged circuits, and deciphering alien code without a single external guide. Most of the engineers in the frontier station had laughed at him. "That thing's a tomb," they had said. "Nothing human can touch it without triggering a self-destruct." But Elias hadn't cared. There had been something in its silent presence that called to him, a challenge he couldn't ignore. He had seen machines before, but none of them had ever waited for him. This one had. Orlan moved slightly, extending one of its mechanical limbs in Elias's direction. It hovered in the air, shaking slightly as if testing the limits of its own repairs. Elias held his breath. He knew from experience that machines sometimes failed even after full reconstruction. But this wasn't just a failure or a success. It was a moment of connection. He reached out with a tentative hand, fingers brushing against the cold metal. The moment his skin touched the Guardian, a gentle pulse traveled through him. It wasn't painful, but it was undeniable. It was like a heartbeat, but not a human heartbeat, something alien, steady, and aware. "Can you understand me?" he asked. He didn't expect an answer, yet the lights along Orlan's frame flickered rhythmically. Then a low hum resonated from deep within the Guardian, almost like a voice vibrating through the metal. Elias took a careful step back, realizing that this wasn't sound in the way humans perceived it. The Guardian didn't speak words. It conveyed meaning directly. Images, emotions, patterns of thought Floods of them filled Elias's mind in a sudden, overwhelming torrent. He staggered, catching himself against the edge of a console, and blinked rapidly. The first image that came clearly to him was of a vast, alien world, cities of impossible architecture stretching into the sky. The second was of war, of stars burning, of creatures he could barely comprehend fighting for survival. And the third, most intense, was a feeling, a deep, unshakable loneliness. The Guardian had been abandoned, betrayed, left to drift in the void until someone, somehow, found it and cared enough to fix it. Elias realized with a mix of awe and humility that he was that someone. He swallowed hard, trying to focus. I fixed you, he said, unsure whether the Guardian would perceive his words as boastful or truthful. The hum softened, like a sigh of relief. For the first time since his arrival, Elias felt a bond forming, strange and powerful. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore, he was a participant in something larger than anything humanity had yet encountered. A living relic of an ancient civilization now regarded him as more than an intruder. Somehow, in the quiet of the frontier station, he had become part of its story. Over the next few hours, Elias began experimenting carefully. He asked simple questions and tested Orlan's responses. He tapped different panels, rerouted energy flows, and observed the Guardian's reactions. Each time it responded with subtle movements, glowing lights, or shifts in internal energy patterns. At first, the responses were mechanical, predictable. But gradually, Elias noticed a change. Orlan began anticipating his actions, adjusting even before he touched a lever or completed a command. It wasn't just reacting anymore. It was learning, adapting, thinking alongside him. As the sun set on the frontier station, Elias allowed himself a small smile. He was tired, physically and mentally, but exhilaration coursed through him. Most humans would have fled from a machine like this, but here he was, interacting with intelligence older than most of the colonies themselves. He could feel a thrill rising in his chest. This was discovery in its purest form, the kind of moment that scientists and explorers dreamed of. And yet, beneath the excitement, a thread of unease lingered. The Guardian was awake, but why now? Why him? The question barely had time to settle before alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed violently. Elias's heart jumped into his throat. He ran toward the observation deck and saw them. Ships moving with precision, sleek and hostile, closing in on the station. Raiders, or perhaps scouts of some alien faction seeking the Guardian. Either way, they were fast, well-armed, and clearly expecting little resistance from a human outpost. Panic surged among the colonists, but Elias froze, staring at Orlan. The Guardian's lights flickered urgently, as if reacting to the incoming threat. Its body shifted, stretching and rotating, preparing for action. Elias's instincts screamed at him to run, to hide, but the bond he felt with the machine held him in place. He understood suddenly and clearly that Orlan recognized him as more than a mechanic. It had locked onto him in some internal protocol he could not fully comprehend. Whatever happened next, he would not be left behind. He swallowed and said, "Okay, let's see what you can do." The Guardian moved with astonishing speed. Panels and compartments opened across its frame, weapons systems engaging, defensive shields humming to life. Its first target was a small raider craft attempting to breach the station's perimeter. In seconds, Orlan had neutralized it, not with reckless destruction, but with precision. The station shuddered as the blast waves from energy pulses rippled through space, yet no civilian structures were harmed. Elias's mouth dropped open. He had seen defense drones and automated turrets, but never anything like this. Orlan was a force unlike any humanity had seen, yet it obeyed no one but him. For the next several hours, chaos reigned. The alien attackers pressed harder, testing the station's defenses. But each time Orlan intercepted, neutralized, or redirected them with uncanny efficiency. Elias realized, even in the adrenaline-fueled panic, that the Guardian was not merely a machine, it was a partner. It understood his thoughts, anticipated his decisions, and acted in perfect harmony with his instincts. Other humans cowered or panicked, but Elias felt a strange calm. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. By the time the final ship withdrew, battered and smoking, the frontier station was still standing. Colonists emerged cautiously from shelters, staring in disbelief at the massive Guardian, now glowing faintly as if acknowledging its victory. Elias's hands shook, both from exhaustion and from awe. He had fixed it, he had awakened it, and somehow it had chosen him, not as a master, not as a controller, but as a partner, a friend, perhaps even something more profound. In the quiet aftermath, Elias approached Orlan cautiously. You didn't have to protect me," he whispered. For a moment, nothing happened, and then the Guardian's core pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. The message was clear. It had chosen him because it trusted him, because it recognized in him the traits its creators had once sought: creativity, unpredictability, courage, and compassion. Humans, for all their flaws, were rare in that way. And Orlan, ancient and powerful as it was, saw that spark in Elias and responded. That night, as the station's crew repaired damage and shared nervous but excited stories, Elias remained with Orlan. He ran diagnostics, checked energy levels, and spoke softly to it, almost as if it were a living creature. And in some ways, it was. He realized that the Guardian's awakening wasn't just a technical achievement, it was the beginning of a bond that might change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Where once humans had been dismissed as weak, unremarkable, and predictable, they now had proof that courage, ingenuity, and empathy could awaken the loyalty of the most powerful beings in the universe. Elias knew this was only the beginning. Raiders, alien factions, and curious officials would come, and they would all want a piece of Orlan. But for now, in the quiet of the frontier station, he allowed himself to revel in the impossible truth. He had repaired an ancient, powerful Guardian, and it had chosen him. A human, a mere mechanic, stood side by side with an alien intelligence older than most civilizations. Together, they had survived the first test, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And as he sat there, watching Orlan's soft glow pulse in rhythm with the quiet hum of the station, Elias felt something he hadn't expected. Hope, not just for himself, not just for the station, but for humanity. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns. But as long as humans could think, improvise, and care, perhaps they were capable of more than anyone had ever imagined. And with Orlan by his side, Elias knew they were about to find out just how far they could go. Elias had not expected his life to change so quickly. Just days ago, he had been a mechanic in a quiet frontier station, repairing mining equipment and struggling to make ends meet. Now he was the caretaker of an ancient alien Guardian, a being whose power dwarfed anything humans had ever seen. The events of the previous attack had made one thing very clear. The galaxy would not leave him alone, and neither would Orlan. The colony council gathered in the station's central hall, their faces tense with worry. Reports from nearby outposts indicated that alien factions had already begun monitoring the Guardian. Some saw it as a tool, others as a threat, and a few, Elias suspected, simply wanted to study him, the human the Guardian had chosen. Officials whispered among themselves, debating whether to contain, control, or even destroy Orlan to avoid attracting more enemies. Elias listened quietly, sensing the fear and misunderstanding behind every word. Orlan's lights glowed softly beside him, like a sentinel keeping watch. The Guardian had remained silent since the attack, almost as if it understood the need for diplomacy. Elias placed a hand on its metal frame, feeling a pulse of warmth travel through his fingers. In that moment, he understood the truth more clearly than ever. Orlan did not belong to the Council, the colonists, or even the galaxy at large. It had chosen him, and that choice was sacred. Despite his confidence, Elias knew he had to prepare for what was coming. If word spread, more powerful alien factions would come, not raiders, but species with fleets, technology, and intentions far more dangerous than anyone had faced on the frontier. Orlan, powerful as it was, needed guidance, and Elias, for all his human limitations, had traits the Guardian valued: creativity, unpredictability, and courage. Over the next few days, Elias worked tirelessly. He ran maintenance checks, improved the Guardian's energy flow, and experimented with communication methods. Orlan responded in ways that were at once astonishing and reassuring. It began anticipating Elias's intentions, aligning its systems to his thought patterns. They began a silent dance, moving in harmony without words, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. Elias realized that the Guardian's intelligence was not only operational, but adaptive. It could learn strategy, anticipate threats, and even reason in ways that rivaled the best human minds. Then the first official contact arrived. A small scout vessel appeared near the station, broadcasting a holographic message. The figure was humanoid but clearly alien, with pale, metallic skin and eyes that seemed to reflect light like mirrors. "I am Overseer Virel of the Keltharia Accord," the hologram began. "You have awakened a Guardian, a relic of a civilization that predates your species. Such power cannot remain in untrained hands. Surrender it immediately for evaluation or face consequences." Elias frowned. The voice was calm, but carried a tone that brooked no argument. "I don't understand," he said aloud. "You don't want to destroy it, just take it?" Orlan's lights pulsed in response, a subtle vibration against his hand that conveyed amusement, or perhaps incredulity. Elias smiled nervously. Even the most powerful aliens could not comprehend the bond between human and Guardian. Virel continued, "Your species is considered primitive. A Guardian is not a toy for human curiosity. Return it, or you risk annihilation." The word hung in the air, a sharp reminder of the stakes. Elias looked at Orlan. The Guardian's body shifted subtly, almost as if it were preparing for something. He felt its trust and loyalty radiating like heat. Humans might be weak in the eyes of others, but Orlan had chosen him, and that was more than any alien army could predict. Elias made his decision. "We're not surrendering," he said firmly. "Not now, not ever." He tapped a control panel, and Orlan's systems glowed brighter, shields humming to life. Virel's expression flickered with surprise on the hologram. "You are ill-prepared," he warned, voice rising in anger. "You cannot hope to survive against the might of the Accord." "Maybe," Elias replied, voice calm despite the adrenaline rushing through him. "But maybe you're underestimating us." In the following days, the tension grew. Reports came in from other colonies. Fleets were mobilizing, diplomats were sending warnings, and spies were monitoring the frontier. Elias worked alongside Orlan, devising strategies that no human military mind could have conceived alone. The Guardian's understanding of ancient technology, combined with Elias's improvisation and quick thinking, allowed them to set traps, camouflage their station, and even reroute energy from nearby mining operations to power Orlan's systems. Despite the looming threat, life inside the station was not entirely grim. The colonists began to see Elias differently. Once an overlooked mechanic, he became a symbol of hope, someone who could face the unknown without fear. Children peeked curiously at the Guardian from behind protective barriers, marveling at its size and beauty. Scientists and engineers arrived from other outposts to study him, offering insights, while Elias absorbed everything he could about alien technology and tactics. Even though the stakes were high, there was a sense of wonder, a reminder that humanity, small and fragile as it seemed, had the potential to shape the cosmos. Orlan, too, began to reveal more of its capabilities. Elias discovered that it could interface with ships, machinery, and even environmental controls, effectively becoming an all-in-one defense and support system. It could anticipate attacks, calculate risks, and optimize energy usage in ways humans could not comprehend. Yet despite all this power, it still deferred to Elias's guidance. The Guardian's loyalty was not blind obedience, it was respect born from recognition. Elias felt a strange pride in that bond. They were equals in a sense, human ingenuity paired with alien might. Then came the first direct challenge. A fleet of sleek black vessels emerged from the edge of the system, moving with precision and discipline. Virel himself arrived aboard the flagship, and his presence radiated authority. "Elias Ward," he said, addressing the human directly, "you have delayed the inevitable. Your defiance is futile. Hand over the Guardian, or all within this station will be destroyed." Elias felt the weight of the moment. Every life on the station, every structure, every civilian depended on his next choice. He looked at Orlan. The Guardian's lights pulsed gently, almost as if reassuring him. Then Elias did something unexpected. He smiled. "You've seen humans fight," he said, "but have you ever seen humans think?" What followed was a display of human ingenuity unlike anything the alien fleet had anticipated. Using Orlan's abilities, Elias orchestrated a series of maneuvers that were equal parts improvisation and strategy. Mining drones, energy conduits, and station infrastructure became tools in an intricate defense. Ships were drawn into traps, lasers reflected in impossible angles, and enemy vessels were rerouted or disabled without unnecessary destruction. Every move surprised the aliens, who expected humans to flee or surrender. Orlan moved with him in perfect synchrony. It became an extension of Elias's mind, reacting faster than thought, defending the station with precision, and striking where the enemy least expected. What astonished Elias most was how adaptable Orlan was. It did not merely follow commands. It suggested, anticipated, and even improvised tactics alongside him. Together, human and Guardian were a force neither species could have predicted. The battle raged for hours, testing every skill Elias had, and every system Orlan possessed. When it ended, the alien fleet had been repelled, some ships destroyed, others retreating in confusion. Virel's expression was unreadable, a mixture of frustration, awe, and something close to respect. Elias, breathing heavily, looked at Orlan, feeling a bond stronger than anything he had known. The Guardian's lights pulsed gently, like a heartbeat in the quiet aftermath. That night, the frontier station was still, but the atmosphere had changed. Humans no longer felt helpless. They had seen a human mechanic stand alongside a being of unimaginable power and emerge victorious. Elias sat with Orlan, reflecting on the events. The Guardian was more than a machine, more than a weapon. It was a partner, a friend, and perhaps the key to humanity's place in a galaxy that had long dismissed them. In the days that followed, Elias and Orlan prepared for the challenges ahead. More fleets would come. More alien powers would seek the Guardian. But Elias knew they were ready. Humans had a gift the galaxy underestimated: adaptability, creativity, and the courage to act when others hesitated. Orlan had recognized that gift, and in doing so, it had chosen humanity as its ally. Elias looked out at the stars, feeling a surge of determination. He knew the galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with beings far older and stronger than humans. Yet for the first time, he felt that humans were not powerless. They had allies, intelligence, and the spark of ingenuity that could change everything. And with Orlan by his side, Elias felt confident that no force, however powerful, could stand in their way for long. The adventure was far from over. New threats would emerge, and the galaxy would challenge them in ways they could not yet imagine. But Elias and Orlan had proven one undeniable truth. When humans and Guardians worked together, they were unstoppable. And as they prepared for the battles yet to come, Elias knew that the story of humanity was only beginning, one choice, one bond, one act of courage at a time. Elias could feel the tension in the air long before the first ships arrived. The galaxy had noticed the Guardians' awakening, and word of his victory against Virel's fleet had spread. More powerful forces were on the move, alien empires that considered humans insignificant and Guardians dangerous. Yet here he stood, the mechanic who had once only repaired mining equipment, now preparing to face the most formidable challenge of his life. Orlan pulsed beside him, its glow steady and reassuring. For the first time, Elias realized that fear had little power when trust and intelligence worked together. The warning came in the form of a massive armada, black and silver ships cutting through the void with precision. These were not raiders, not diplomats. They were warriors, disciplined and well-equipped, representing an alien coalition that demanded obedience. Their leader broadcast a message across the station. Elias Ward, you and your Guardian have interfered with the order of the galaxy. Surrender immediately or all under your protection will perish. Elias stepped forward, looking out at the vast fleet. Behind him, the station's crew had armed every defensive system available. But Elias knew that raw firepower alone would not win this battle. He turned to Orlan, placing a hand against its cool metal. The Guardian responded with a pulse that ran through his arm, almost like reassurance. Elias felt a surge of determination. We won't surrender. Not today, not ever. Orlan's frame shifted, energy flowing along circuits and panels as it prepared for action. Together they had learned each other's strengths and weaknesses, and now it was time to put that bond to the test. Elias began issuing commands, not orders, but suggestions, ideas, and strategies that Orlan interpreted and expanded upon. It was a conversation without words, a dance of human ingenuity and alien power. The first wave of the alien fleet approached, sleek vessels armed with energy weapons far beyond anything humanity had developed. Orlan moved, extending limbs and opening panels that revealed weapon systems previously hidden beneath its armor. Lasers and energy pulses lanced out with precision, intercepting incoming fire while avoiding unnecessary damage to the station. Elias's mind raced, improvising tactics on the fly. He instructed Orlan to draw enemy ships into narrow canyons of debris near the asteroid belt, using gravity and obstacles to slow them down. The Guardian responded instantly, guiding the alien vessels into traps they could not anticipate. Hours passed and the battle intensified. Elias had anticipated their attack patterns, but the aliens adapted quickly, testing his and Orlan's strategies. Yet for every maneuver they made, Elias found another way to counter, using a combination of logic, intuition, and human unpredictability. Orlan mirrored his thinking, shifting energy, shielding the station, and striking at critical points with perfect timing. The synergy between human and Guardian became a force the aliens could not calculate. During a brief lull, Elias allowed himself a moment to observe Orlan. Despite the ongoing battle, the Guardian's lights glowed gently, almost as if it were alive in the truest sense. Elias realized that this bond went deeper than strategy. Orlan had chosen him not merely because of skill, but because of courage, creativity, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. The Guardian recognized in humans something that other species had lost: adaptability, empathy, and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. The alien coalition regrouped, launching their next wave with larger ships and more advanced weapons. This time, their goal was clear: overwhelm the station with brute force. Elias adjusted his plan, instructing Orlan to activate hidden energy conduits from nearby mining arrays, creating a network of traps and defensive pulses. Ships were caught in unexpected fields of energy, weapons misfired, and formations broke apart. Elias felt a thrill of exhilaration, but he also knew the stakes were higher than ever. One misstep could destroy the station and everyone in it. In the midst of battle, Elias noticed something remarkable. Orlan began anticipating threats even before he considered them, moving faster than thought, adjusting strategies in real time. It was learning from him, yes, but also evolving on its own. The Guardian's intelligence was adaptive, surpassing even the best human reasoning. Yet despite its immense power, it deferred to him at critical moments, trusting his judgment and valuing his creativity. Elias smiled, realizing that they were not just allies, they were partners in the truest sense. The climax came when the alien leader, Virel's superior, personally joined the battle aboard a massive flagship. Its presence radiated authority, and the alien fleet's coordination improved dramatically. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The station's defenses were strong, but against such a fleet, raw strength alone could not win. He needed to think differently. Elias studied the battlefield, noticing patterns in the enemy's formations. Their discipline made them predictable in ways their technology could not conceal. He whispered to Orlan, outlining a bold strategy that relied not on force, but on ingenuity. The Guardian responded immediately, adjusting energy flows, shields, and weaponry. Together, they executed the plan with precision. Energy fields redirected enemy fire, causing confusion and disruption. Strategic attacks disabled key vessels while leaving the rest of the fleet intact, forcing them into disarray. The alien flagship, realizing its advantage slipping away, moved to engage Orlan directly. Elias felt a rush of adrenaline. He had anticipated this move and directed the Guardian to a narrow asteroid canyon, using the environment to neutralize the flagship's superior firepower. Orlan executed flawlessly, its massive frame weaving through obstacles while delivering precise strikes. The flagship faltered, its systems overloaded, and it was forced to retreat. The remaining fleet, demoralized and confused, began to withdraw. When the last of the enemy ships disappeared into the void, the frontier station was still standing. The colonists emerged cautiously, staring in awe at the Guardian and the human who had commanded it. Elias, exhausted but exhilarated, placed a hand on Orlan's frame. The Guardian's lights pulsed softly, as if acknowledging the victory. Elias realized that this battle was more than a defense. It was proof. Humans, underestimated for so long, had the ability to stand alongside the most powerful beings in the galaxy. In the aftermath, the station was filled with celebration, repairs, and cautious planning. Scientists and engineers marveled at the Guardian's technology, but Elias knew that the true marvel was the bond between human and machine. Orlan had chosen him, and in doing so, it had shown the galaxy that courage, creativity, and loyalty were forces no technology could suppress. Elias looked at the stars, realizing that this was only the beginning. More challenges would come, more fleets, more factions, but humanity had proven its worth. With Orlan by his side, Elias knew they could face anything. The Guardian was not just a weapon, it was a partner, a friend, and a symbol of what humans could achieve when they refused to be underestimated. As night fell over the frontier station, Elias stood beside Orlan, watching the stars stretch endlessly across the sky. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of possibilities. Humans, small and fragile in comparison to ancient empires, had found a way to leave their mark. And with a guardian by their side, they could reach further, dream bigger, and change the fate of worlds. Elias felt a sense of pride and purpose he had never known. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a pioneer, a leader, and the human who had earned the trust of a being older than most civilizations. Orlan pulsed beside him, as steady and powerful as a heartbeat, and Elias knew that together they were unstoppable. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, and now humanity had a guardian to prove them wrong. The adventure was far from over. New allies and challenges awaited, and the frontier station would become a beacon of hope for those who believed in human ingenuity and courage. Elias and Orlan had survived the first test, but the galaxy was vast, and their story was only beginning. The stars themselves seemed to shimmer with possibility, reflecting the bond between a human mechanic and an ancient, powerful guardian who had chosen him. And as Elias looked toward the horizon, he knew that no force, however powerful, could break that bond, nor the courage it represented. Humans had a spark the galaxy could not extinguish. Orlan had seen it, recognized it, and joined them. Together they were a force that could change the future. And nothing, not fleets, not ancient powers, not the darkness of space, could stop them. Elias smiled, feeling hope and determination fill him. The universe was vast, but humanity, guided by courage, creativity, and the bond of trust, was ready to rise. And with Orlan at his side, he knew they would shine brighter than any star.